Good morning. This is Dr. Matthew Dunn, host of The Future of Email. My guest today, I'm delighted to have on board Elizabeth Jacobi, founder of MochaBear Marketing. Elizabeth, yay, we get to talk.
Hi,
Hey,
thanks for having me. I'm
yeah, well,
excited to be here.
thanks for joining up. Give people the nickel version of MochaBear.
So I started MochaBear Marketing in 2017, but I've been in the email marketing space
Yeah,
for over 20 years.
yeah.
I worked for Cheetah Mail, which is now Cheetah Digital, and I worked for a CRM agency. And I really wanted to work with small businesses, which was not possible when I worked in the agency world. We only worked with large enterprise brands. So
Hmm.
today I work primarily with small and mid-sized businesses and helping them take that same large brand strategy to their small business.
Now I'm 100% simpatico with I like working with small businesses, but tell me where that comes from. Why?
I think I've always had a passion for small business where you know the owner, where you kind of walk into a place and the owner is there talking to you. And that's sort of always been something that I've loved, even as a kid. I went to college at UC Davis, which was a small college town. And often the business owner would be at the bagel shop, the coffee place, the bookstore. And I always really enjoyed hearing their story. And while I loved working with big brands, I needed the experience to help small businesses by working with those big brands.
Yeah.
My passion has always been more around small business
Yep.
and really kind of helping them. And they don't have the same budget or resources that
Right.
a large brand has. So, it's really important that they're able to market their restaurant, their store, their e-commerce business, um, just as much as a large brand with a big budget.
Well, and arguably an effective email program is even more important for a small business, isn't it?
I would say yes, definitely. One of client that I picked up during the pandemic shutdown was a small restaurant locally here, and they were super popular when they'd only been open about 6 or 7 months when the shutdown happened. So
Yeah.
they were new,
Yeah.
but they were a local business. They raised their kids in the neighborhood, and it was still hard for them. So by setting them up with an email program, and they were already collecting email address, but didn't really know how to send
Yeah.
or what to send, they were able to really grow their business during a time when so many businesses were not able to grow. And it made me realize even more that small businesses almost, you're right, need it more than a big business. We all know big brands because you see it when you're driving, you go to the mall.
Yeah.
It's the smaller brands that tend to be forgotten about, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're competing with that spend. Well, and also if they're geography centric, not small business making, custom widget for bicyclists or whatever, but restaurant or something like that, repeat customer, loyal customer, big deal, right? Backbone of your business. And that's where
Yeah.
the kind of marketing that you're helping them do is all about, it is as much about that growing that loyal customer base and serving them as the constant new that the billboard's going to attract.
I often describe, like, especially when people are kind of unclear, like what email marketing really is, I often say it's about building loyal relationships, retaining your customers, not just about sending an email and trying to get someone to purchase. I mean, obviously that's ideal, but it's really about, building that relationship, and it's one to one. Whereas social media, I mean, I like and follow and unfollow businesses all the time. Email is a little harder. I don't unsubscribe often. I sometimes stop reading, but for the most part, I do look at email a lot more than I look at my social media. And I think for a small business, that's why it's so important.
Are you seeing, uh, are you seeing texting play a role or even an increasing role for small business scale customers?
So I've seen it a little bit more in those who are e-commerce
Hmm.
and like only e-commerce that they have an interest in SMS. I wanted to add SMS to my services and I piloted a few programs for myself. And as I mentioned it to my client, no, I didn't have as many takers as I thought. They really wanted to keep their focus around email. And SMS is something that I was interested in many years ago, like when it first started. And I do think there's a great tie-in to email, but it's coming to my phone in the same way that my friend or my husband or my mom texts me. And I think for certain businesses, they're just not that comfortable with it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I it's a rabbit hole we could probably go way, way down, but, um, I've been watching this landscape with some considerable interest over the last couple of years, the messaging, which is not just SMS, but the messaging thing and the email thing, and watching them sort of jostle and jockey. And what you said, I think has a whole bunch of merits, like the interrupt, the way you use that channel, the message channel, tends to be personal and relationship centric right now. And like, are
yeah.
there businesses I know well enough, care about well enough, where I'd say, sure, I want you on that channel? Not many of them. And honestly, what do they have to say that I want to be interrupted about on any regular basis?
I'm glad you said I thought it was just me that felt that way. I will tell you the SMSs marketing messages that I like is the like a dinner reservation reminder.
Utility.
That I like saying, please confirm your reservation tomorrow. I
Yeah.
prefer that to come to me via text. It's like
Yeah.
the old days of them calling to confirm your reservation.
Yeah.
I also like it. Shopify, I think, does this
Does.
where they tell you your package is out for delivery. And
Yes.
that I like because I like to know that there's going to be a package at my door sometime that day.
Yeah.
Um, but when I get the constant sales messages, do you like this outfit? I'm like, I
Right.
just don't have time to reply to your text
Yeah.
message or
Yes.
read it.
Yes. Yes. Well, and there's like the kind of messages you mentioned, I think, those of us in the email space would say, more like triggers, right? More like what I said, utility. Like they're part of something that's already happening. They're helping make that thing happen. They are not trying to make a new thing, a new sale happen. And
Yeah.
my dentist, God bless him, right? Like, beep, text message, hey, ding dong. You remember when you said that appointment 6 months ago? I'm like, "Oh, thank you, right? But
See, that's a helpful message.
it's a helpful message. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, we're having a sale on crowns. Don't do that to me, right? Seriously,
Yeah.
don't do that to me. Yeah, agreed. And I think in part because it's such a high priority interrupt. When it goes bing, I am going to look. You are going to look. And there might be small businesses, local businesses where the nature of what they do fits that, but the plumbing infrastructure to do, let's call them triggered texts, man, I could see turnkey system for dentist's office having that wired in. But if you're kind of starting from scratch as a small business restaurant, as you mentioned, maybe way down the list of priorities. If it's not built into a reservation system like Open Table or something like that, so you're not going to get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I feel like SMS needs to be even more one to one than email. If
Well put.
a store that I shop at
Yeah.
texted me and said, "Hey, we just got some new arrivals that we think, would be perfect. They're just your style." That I'm likely to say, "Great, I'm coming in."
Really one to one.
But that's very one to one.
Yeah.
Whereas I just don't get a lot of I get a few of those, but for the most part, it's the same thing I'm getting in their email.
Yeah, 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 and as we quest for personalization and one to one in email, pushing that same quest to the point of actual you know, psychological ROI for the customer in the text channel is going to be super detailed. I'm a long time Amazon customer because I happened to live in Seattle when Amazon started, and my Amazon ID is from '97.
Wow.
Yeah. Same way.
You're an early adopter.
Oh yeah, always, right. But I kind of watch Amazon because the scale they've gotten to, the resources they've got. If someone's going to try something in a channel, they're probably going to try it. And Amazon has never asked me for texting permission, which is interesting. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not doing it. And I probably wouldn't say yes anyway, because, oh my word, my phone would never stop dinging. But if they're not doing it, then maybe it doesn't make sense for a restaurant to do it. Okay, enough of the texting rabbit. Oh, we'll come back to the more viable terrain of email. What do you find? You say you land a new customer. Restaurant's an easy one to talk about. What do you find that tend to be the easy pickings? Like, oh, I can help them do this, this, and this, and it's gonna change their business immediately.
Um, so I usually ask them, where they're struggling, or where their challenges are.
Mhm.
So using the restaurant space, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are big restaurant nights. So it's the other nights where they may not be getting as many people in the door as they would like. So, sometimes we'll talk about what can we do to incentivize people to come in on those nights? What can we do to make your email people who are your most loyal customers feel special?
Mhm.
In some cases, we'll, tell them that they should start reserving their tables for the weekend now to make sure that they get in. In other cases, they'll have like weekly specials that just go out to the email list. So really working with them to kind of help them understand that we're using email to target their most loyal customers. And we do want new people to subscribe, obviously, but we want to make sure that when people subscribe, they're feeling more special than that customer that either just walks in and is from out of town or who books on Open Table. Like, yes, we want them to feel just as special, but really to make sure that their email people are feeling even more special than everyone else.
Got it.
So, and also, building that brand awareness. I read this statistic, and this was a few years ago, so I'm sure it's changed, that 47% of people that had a good experience at any type of business, it wasn't restaurant specific, don't return because there's so many options, whether it's online or, just in the same neighborhood. So kind of reminding people, who you are and why
Yes.
they came in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also
Hmm.
um I'm a big believer in small businesses telling their story, because they are more unique than a big chain. Why should people come in, like who they are, what's their reason for starting their business? They,
Yeah.
in most cases they have some type of passion that made them start their own business. So I really want to make sure that that story is told because I think that that tends to resonate.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an asset that the big box does not have. Like, I
Right.
don't care about the story of fill in the blanks big box chain. It's like, like you're
Yeah.
just a box with other boxes in it at this point. Huh. What? Yeah, it's good. And it's interesting that it's interesting that that's the, the easy pickings, the, um, grow that relationship. Do small businesses tend to have the sort of data and technical, uh, house in order when they come to you? Or are they like, oh, we have a MailChimp account and there's dust on it?
Yeah, I think it's more that. I don't think I'm actually speaking at the Western Food Service and Hospitality Show later this month.
Okay.
And one of the topics that I'm going to talk about is what data do you have that can help your email program?
Hmm.
I feel like a lot of businesses don't even realize what data they have.
Yeah.
Uh, most of their websites today, you can subscribe to a newsletter. That's great. Hopefully you're sending. Some are still not sending. But you have point of sale data, you have the email data, what people click on, like where they're going within the email. So I think for the most part, it's not that they don't have the data, it's that they don't
Use it.
know what to do with what they have.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, it's the same problem you see in enterprises. It's siloed, right? Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of names and emails, but they're in the point of sale system, and we don't know how to get them from there to the, fill in the blanks, the other thing that actually sends emails on a regular basis. Like, yeah, and stuff. And if they do it once, making it happen all the time can be a ton of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to help them automate it as much as possible, but there are some systems that can't be automated. I have one client, we load data every single Monday. It's a manual process.
Yeah.
It's a pain, but it's the only way unless they were to hire someone to build them an API call.
Yeah.
And then someone needs to manage that. And they're just not, going to spend the budget on that. They don't see the importance of it.
Well, and you can run a really successful restaurant and never have to know what the heck API stands for. So we are bringing a different frame of reference to that. I'm of the opinion that Zapier and no code automation platforms like that could be the small business's best friends. But I've got friends that run small businesses and they're like, huh? That's too technical. Like, that's actually fair, right? That's actually fair. As easy as it looks, it still requires a whole bunch of, knowledge and detail.
It is. That is one of the things that I set up for. I use Zapier for a lot of my clients, and it's a tool that saves me a ton of time.
Exactly.
And it's super helpful for them. But
Yeah.
it's intended to be user friendly, and I guess those of us in the email world, it is user friendly. But for someone who's not, someone who's running a restaurant or a store or a small e-commerce business, it's not as intuitive as you would think.
Yeah, it still isn't. And technology platforms that are very well built for a given purpose, particularly if they've been around for any number of years, aren't necessarily prone to making the data in their bucket easy to get to or to sync or something like that. Great point of sale systems that have an API, small list, because point of sale guys don't tend to think in those terms.
Yeah, it's amazing to me today that even with some of these newer technologies that they didn't think about integrations with these other small business platforms, and that it's still not easy.
Yeah.
I came from the world where we had developers, and if you needed an API call built, no problem. Yes, there was a cost and it needed to be monitored, but it was done.
Yeah.
And that's not easy for most businesses.
Yeah. And the company that's building a, widget management platform for customers to sell widgets, like if most of their customers aren't asking for that, it's not going to go up on the priority list of things to get done. I see enterprise grade stuff being more and more and more API first, API centric, but that wave's not even a decade old.
Right.
So it's small wonder that platforms focused on SMBs are not necessarily putting that at the top of their list of things to do. And if you end up with a whole bunch of Zapier triggers, holding the pieces together, babysitting that, maintaining that, it's not zero work. So
it does.
Yeah,
I had a client this week who changed something so simple in a spreadsheet and it broke everything. And, it was like such a minor change. And in my head, I thought, why is it not smart enough to know that this change was just a change to the tab name?
Yeah.
And it wasn't, it broke the whole thing.
Yeah. Boom. and usually boom, that you didn't realize happened until sometime like, why is that not working anymore? Start
Yeah.
tracing
So-
it all the way back. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're we're a dev shop. We've got developers, and we struggle with keeping things band-aided together and making sure automations work and all that other stuff. And yeah, someone could change a tab name and boom, right? Something.
yeah, it's
Law of
such a small thing.
such a small, the law of unintended consequences. Well, it's not. It looks like a bunch of technology issues in a sense it is, but it's also data digital data issues. You know, you said those of us in the email space, and I was kind of rephrasing it like those of us who end up handling, using, connecting data think of things in quite a different way than someone whose concern is more immediate and physical. You know, boxes, shipments, supplies. You know, food safety, stuff like that. Like it hasn't been abstracted
Yeah.
digital data. So if you don't do that stuff all day, you don't realize what it could do, how difficult it is, how brittle and prone to breaking it is. And how kind of jury-rigged the whole darn thing is, really, on it.
It's funny. Sometimes people will say, well, why should I hire, an email
Yeah,
consultant or an expert? And my like the way I explain it to them is you need to run your business. Like for you, the most important thing is business revenue, is your operations running efficiently, and I'll worry about the marketing side of it, the email marketing. And I think that resonates with them versus, well, you just need an email program.
yeah,
Because the truth is, with MailChimp, with Constant Contact, I guess anyone can go in and send an email. It doesn't mean it's doing anything.
yeah. I could trot down to the store and buy a sharp knife. That doesn't make me a surgeon.
I hope not.
I hope not. Really. Wait, here. Lie still. Let me try this. um, Switch gears for a second. You've had an interesting journey from corporate enterprise to back to that place that you're passionate about, SMB, which meant you got to go through the fun and games and joys of founder and starting a thing and being a small business as well. What was the biggest surprise about that shift?
Ugh. To me, the biggest surprise was that no one has written a step by step guide of if you want to start your own business, you need to think of A through Z. That to me was the biggest challenge. I knew the basic. I knew I needed a website. I needed a name. I needed to make sure that, my business name was trademarked. Like that I knew, but there were some other things I don't think I realized. Like, how are you going to go about getting clients? Where should you, do you need a small business loan to start? Those
Right.
types of things. And I didn't realize what resources were available to small business consultants like myself. Now I know, but I didn't know in my first year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got very lucky. The email space is full of wonderful people, and I had enough contacts that I was able to get, started pretty quickly. But there was a lot I didn't know, even that I needed QuickBooks for billing. I was sending manual invoices,
Yes.
which
Yes.
was a big pain.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm actually glad you said it because there's a whole wealth of stuff there. Like many, if not most people who run their own thing of whatever scale, like there isn't a very good blueprint. And most people with a business degree, their business degree didn't cover how to build one. It's sort of how to go be part of an existing one, maybe, but all of the challenges of doing a new thing and all the seemingly little decisions that you've got to discover along the way. You know, maybe there is a
Yeah,
book on that. Maybe there is a blueprint.
there might be.
There
I
might.
didn't find one.
I have not found it either. Have you read the E Myth, Gerber, Michael Gerber?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
put that on your list. E-Myth
Okay,
Revisited,
I'm
I
going
think.
to.
Yeah, Michael Gerber. Yeah,
Okay.
it's about how to how to do what you're doing, what I'm doing, without making yourself completely nuts and burning out, which is tough. Because in a sense, the advice you're giving to your clients, right? Look, let me handle the email marketing, is advice to turn on yourself. Like what's running at MochaBear that really someone else could do because it's in their wheelhouse, it's in their passion, instead of making everything top to bottom your baby, your problem. It's tough.
It's funny you say that because so in my probably in year 6 to 7 months in, I decided, okay, sending manual invoices and waiting for checks is not going to work. Um, I need to get QuickBooks. So I set it up myself, fairly easy to do. But at some point, it became a mess.
Yeah.
And I spent hours like unsyncing things, resyncing things. And then I said the same thing that I say to clients: why are you not hiring someone to fix this problem for you?
Yes.
They'll fix it in a few hours and
Yep.
you'll be spending 12 hours and not picking up a client in that 12 hours.
Yep.
So I did hire someone to fix it and, it's now working fine.
Yes.
But, it's those little things where I just was like, no, I'll do it myself. It's
Yes.
easier.
Yes.
And you realize it's not.
It's not. And man, and the very personality that's gonna start a business is the personality that's gonna say, "Well, I can figure it out. I can do it."
Yeah.
Right? Like we're on worst enemy. It's funny you went to the QuickBooks example, because when you said QuickBooks earlier, a little light went off my head, because over a decade now, and best decisions I made in this business was, God bless you, Sarah, hiring Sarah, going, I don't even want to look at QuickBooks. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to look at it. I hate it. You do it. Don't, like, seriously, give me the reports and just don't bother me, because I hate that fussy
Mm,
line by line. And she's brilliant at it, right? And
see?
thank you, Sarah, taking that monkey off my back, because I'd never get it done. I'd find 9,000. Look,
It's so true. And you don't think about that. Time is money. So if you could get someone to spend a little bit of time helping you, it's
yeah,
probably worth it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely worth it. And QuickBooks and data sync, and getting all the lines out of the ledgers, out of the bank accounts. Like, it's another example of that. It's not an API centric world mess that we talked
Yeah.
about before. I mean, I think some of the bank synchronization is still that massive hack of, like, system A pretends to log in as you and screen scrapes web pages. You're like, oh, this is
That's
awful.
scary.
This is awful. Oh, we're still running that way. Yeah, everybody's still running that way. Nah. Oh well. Okay, a different switch gears question for you. You stay heavily involved in the email space, which is awesome. We all get the benefit. You're on the committee from Only Influencers that's helping get some more definition to email metrics, right?
I am. So I love being on that committee.
Yeah.
I met Jean many years ago when I think even before I started MochaBear marketing. And when I found out that I've been a member of Only Influencers for a long time. I had a boss who was a mentor, and he insisted when I started working for him that I join Only Influencers, and I continued that membership even when I ended
Nice.
up, going off on my own. But when they started the metrics committee, metrics and segmentation is kind of my passion. I'm really into the analytics side of things, and not the pretty side of email, but like why email, what's important in the email, what's not. And so I asked about the metrics committee and they invited me to be on it. And it's been great. We've done several webinars. We have another one coming up on specific to segmentation in September,
Excellent.
or sorry, maybe it's the last week of August. Um, and it's been great. The email world is very full of nice people. I think we all help each other out. And when you work independently, I think it's important to be involved in something so you can stay relevant within your field. And so it's been great. I mean, we went to that's where I I met you at the conference.
Okay.
So it was, I think those things are just so important. And it's just nice to be around other email marketing professionals who, you know, think the same way or, give different ideas and perspective on things. To me, that's been wonderful.
Earlier guest on this podcast, Dr. Ada Bartlett, is on the metric.
Yeah. She's on the committee with me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
She's great.
yeah. Cheerful data scientist, as I recall.
Yeah.
is her,
Very.
is her tagline. Wow, the two of you would make a formidable piece of a committee. The small business running a modest email program probably doesn't think in terms of things like metrics and there's a whole bunch of because they matter even at a small scale and matter even more at a bigger scale, and I imagine we're going to have to do a lot of continued reformulation of what's measurable and how does it matter and how does it inform what you do next as that email landscape shifts around. Open rates being the obvious
Yeah.
thing to pick on.
We could go
Yeah.
on a whole different conversation about open rates. It's
Yeah.
still the question I get the most. I want to resend to my openers or my non-openers. Like, forget about that metric.
Yeah. Yeah. Afraid so. Especially if you're not at a massive scale, I think. But yes, let's
Yes.
not let's not go.
Let's not go down that road.
It's very inside baseball when talking to stuff like there's 64 people who think this matters and are actually going to gaze at discussion. Like average podcast listener going, the heck are they talking about? Okay. Shove that aside. Next, is there anything you missed about the corporate and enterprise world?
I think there are some things I missed, but COVID probably would have killed that anyway. I do miss sometimes, like a lot of the people I'm still friendly with that I socialize with are people that I met through work,
Mhm.
and going into the office. I think there are times that I do miss it, but
Interesting.
right now it wouldn't have happened for the past 2+ years anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was working from home before that. So not a lot changed for me, but I think that's the one thing that I do sometimes miss is being, in an office environment. But I don't ever think that I would go back and work for a company. I really enjoy consulting and doing my own thing.
Nice. There's I want to say season 2, which it's just embarrassing that I'm probably accurate, but there's a little moment season 2 of The West Wing where the Bartlett's president is watching some of his folks interact at a party, and he's like, and I love seeing colleagues, being collegial. Better written line than that, but that's that thing you're talking about there. It's valuable to have those collegial relationships, and we all did get
Yeah.
kind of snipped off from that. Those of us already working from home were like, yeah, no big deal. I'm already used to this, but it is not going to be the same in work setting, particularly if it's any way digital work setting, because you're going to have colleagues who you'll never ever meet live, or you'll only meet at conferences. And wow, that's a shift.
Yeah, it's such a I was with someone yesterday and they mentioned that their boss has moved to another state and they're not, he doesn't think they'll ever go back into
Yeah.
an office,
Yeah.
which I thought was very interesting. It, it sounds wonderful that people just move to wherever they wanted to, but
But
I don't, I wonder if and when we will go back to that office environment. And I do think like, when I worked at Cheetah,
yeah.
part of how I made so many connections in this field is by going into an office and having lunch together and, hanging out and going for happy hours. If I was that at that place in my career
Mhm.
now, I would miss out on all of that.
How often?
I'm glad I had it, but I think of people who are just starting out, and I think that's going to be a challenge.
Career stage thing. Let's stick with that one. I'll come back to the other thought for a second. I think that career stage observation is very astute. And I've seen articles and analysis that said essentially, look, new to the workplace folks, millennials or whatever, are kind of getting shortchanged if they're, you know, go work from your apartment, see you on Zoom. How do they get the mentoring and relationship building and advice and storytelling that those of us who are older than millennials got early in our career by hanging out at the office?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a challenge because I think of the times I would just walk into another colleague office and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this. What are your thoughts?"
Yeah.
If I have to get on Zoom with that person, am I going to do it? Now I have to schedule a time with them.
Yeah,
Um,
it's intentional, it's agendaed, yeah.
yeah.
It
So I don't know. I'm not sure. And especially in a field in the digital world where things are rapidly changing and, strategies need to be really like thought about, especially as things change. I don't know how you do that on Zoom. I mean, it sounds funny to say I don't know how you do it like in the digital world. I don't know how you do it virtually, but I think it's just a little bit harder.
I
Even at the conference that we were at, I felt like I picked up a lot of ideas by being in a room with other people
Yeah.
where I join, the weekly calls, and I do pick up ideas from them, but not the same as just that conversation that you weren't intending to have.
Yeah, yeah. A couple thoughts off of that. I'm guilty of citing this book about every fifth podcast episode. So here we go again. Uh, Wonderful book called The Social Life of Information, John Seeley Brown and Paul Duguid, which was written before Facebook existed, by the way. And the gist of that book is the way we really learn from each other is by casual conversation and stories and breaking bread and having beer together. And you don't do that on Zoom. And that's the thing. That's the thing that could be lost. A possible slight antidote to that, for the duration of time that I've been in the email space where we've been trying to grow Campaign Genius. Lucky enough to have one of the really experienced folks in the space basically sign on to mentor. And we have a standing every week, half-hour Zoom call that actually doesn't really have an agenda.
I like that.
And it's been incredibly valuable to me because sometimes it's a 15-minute call, sometimes it's a 31-minute call, but we end up with a, "Hey, how you doing?" And, "Oh yeah," and, "Oh, that new client," and the casual conversation. It's not, "I need to schedule a call with him so I can ask about X," the agenda-driven Zoom call that you mentioned. The
Yeah.
fact that it's kind of nailed up and it's going to be a casual conversation has led to a lot more of that incredibly valuable casual learning. Let me bounce this off of you. What's your reaction to that kind of stuff?
And are a lot of the people new who are joining new to the email space
This
or
is a one-on-one. This is
oh, one-on-one? Okay.
one-on-one call because those group calls, which you mentioned that both of us have participated in, those are terrific, but they are not one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one-on-one, you know, small group would be interesting. Like if 3 or 4 people had a standing, no agenda conversation. I'm thinking out loud here, but as companies run the necessary experiments to fill in the human thing that remote work has ruled out, there's some not obvious parameters like agenda, no agenda, like group size that merit experimentation, I think.
It's funny. It's interesting you say that. I've been a member of a couple of chambers in LA, and they obviously all went virtual. And I found that virtual networking, because they throw you in a room with one or two other people, to be more helpful than the in person networking, where it was like a large lunch or a cocktail hour, where you may the person that you would most likely want to meet is not someone that you would meet. But when you're being thrown into multiple rooms, you're going to meet all 30 or 40 people at some point in that 90-minute call. And I found that to be super helpful. And I felt like I met a lot more people than when I used to go to the in person
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Well, this is incredibly recursive, but I have found this podcast incredibly fun, useful, valuable for exactly that reason. Right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, if you had asked me 3 years ago to do this, I would have probably said, "Oh, well, yeah, but I don't but, when I have time."
Yeah.
But now that we're so used to this, I realize that we should have been doing this all along.
Yeah. Well, I've been watching the evolution of video conferencing for quite a number of years in digital media, my field, and I don't think we would have flipped over to this being so normal. This being the Zoom conversation we're on, uh, without that forcing function that the pandemic served. Because I used to kind of bug people to try to get them to video conference with me. We've been running a virtual business for well over a decade. It's like, well, we could hop on a video, and people would be like, "Oh, but no, I have to do hair and makeup, and I don't have a camera."
I used to be that person.
Everybody was that person, and truthfully, it was a huge pain in the butt, technically, to set up a decent video conferencing system. It still is, honest to God, it still is.
Yeah,
But we've all of a sudden in a year or two time frame, everyone had to get at least okay at that. Why? Because that's the office now, right?
right.
And
Yeah.
it looks to me like the bar is continuing to go up. I mean, you specifically, you've got the Zoom blurred background on, but that
Yeah.
that wasn't an option 3 years ago on video
No.
conferencing platforms. It was like, this is it. What you see is what you get. And now, I mean, because I invest time in this podcast, I've got seriously, I've got lights, camera, multiple monitors. Like this is like baby TV studio thing to me, and a really good looking microphone. Baby TV studio thing going to make this work. And it took time and tinkering and investment to make that happen. Payoff though now is this all feels normal.
It's so true. Yeah, being on Zoom, and even with prospective clients, sometimes they'll say, "Do you mind if we got on a Zoom?" And I think that's great, because I've picked up clients that are not local during
Yes.
this time,
Yes.
because you weren't meeting the local person for
Yes.
coffee anymore.
Yes.
What's the difference if we're on Zoom or we're at a coffee shop? We can
Which
talk about your business.
which expanded your potential market dramatically.
Oh, yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah.
It's been for me, and I think for others in the digital space, realizing that you just could pick up clients that are not down the street from you or
Mm.
within a 30-minute drive, I think has been super helpful. I hear that from a lot of people, that their their business has expanded to areas that they didn't ever anticipate.
Yeah. Yeah. And some habit change to go, oh, I guess I do have a bigger market, a mindset change, if you will. Oh, I guess I do have a bigger market. It's taken a while to shift those gears as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know where that goes. Like, keep running that trend light out. I don't really know uh, where that ends up. I know that some fields are starting to see national borders be less a thing. Software development's an obvious one to pick on, but because developers are so cotton picking expensive right now, it's like, well, if I could hire a really good developer who's in fill in the blanks, and whether it's currency arbitrage or local wages or something like that, make that work. Maybe that's better, but I expect if that person with that skill set could shop themselves, eventually they'll go, yeah, you're going to pay me what you're going to pay a developer, regardless of where I live.
Yeah, I think and I think people also realize you want to find the best talent regardless of where they're located,
Yeah.
which I think previously, like I see this when, I see job postings, they're looking for someone either local or remote. Like they don't seem to just say it has to be a local person
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're your small world is now getting much bigger.
It is. And we did all of this. We accelerated a good 10 years of shift into 1 or 2, which has been just fascinating to watch. Like,
Yeah.
bam, all of a sudden, you got to work that way. I'm also intrigued by the businesses and businesses, functions, whatever, um, that can't, won't, and shouldn't uh, go to Zoom. And the obvious one to pick on. Oh wow, that picture's blurry. Hang on a second. Boo, that's
Yeah.
awful. I'm gonna have to edit that out when in the video footage. We're like, whoop whoop. Education, schools. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm calling baloney on Zoom-based education. Baloney.
Yeah. That should not be
No,
on Zoom.
below
I mean,
below a certain age, just it's not the same.
yeah, there's just no way that you can stay focused. I mean, we can't stay focused for an all day Zoom
Oh God,
to the
would that be
kid.
exhausting? Oh, gross.
It's exhausting.
Hey, man. Oh, shoot me. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
I've never done that, and I don't think I would even say yes. Actually, have you attended some of the virtual conferences in the last couple of years?
I have, yes.
And
And
did you multitask while they were going on?
I did.
Yeah.
um, I liked that they were virtual and that I don't know that I would have attended.
Yeah.
I think that there is a need for a virtual track, but I definitely was multitasking, whereas I wouldn't have been if I was in person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess there's good and bad.
Yeah, I think good and bad. There's a Linda Stone. I worked with her at Microsoft. She sort of her career is now based on a phrase. She coined this phrase, continuous partial attention. And to be fair, she coined the phrase well over a decade ago, and it does seem apt to conferences,
Yeah.
to virtual conferences now. Because oh yeah, I'm really glued to all of the 3 or 4 things that I'm doing at once. Well, versus, this, you and I a one-to-one conversation on Zoom. I am not multitasking. I am not
Me neither.
right? Because
But
why?
you
Because we're having it.
can't with the one-to-one conversation.
You
But if
can't.
I'm just listening to a speaker, it's
Yeah.
easy to multitask.
Well, let's pick on it again. Those group only influencers calls that both of us frequently attend. I see people doing some multitasking on those. Not a
Yeah.
lot, but a bit.
I don't see it as much as I would have thought with that many people on a
Yeah.
call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's because they're all so cool and smart. That's what it is.
exactly. But it's only an hour. It's not an all day thing. I think an hour you can easily commit to not multitasking. When it's 4 hours, 6 hours, which is what some of these conferences are, it's a little harder.
Well, and it's
So,
6 hours, and it's many, sort of little segments, and not everybody is super arresting when they're the speaker, or you're not as dialed into that particular subject at that particular moment or whatever else. And we're all guilty for the most part of using the work multitasking device to do the job of this video connection.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a dedicated monitor. I've got the world's best desk. There, I said it. But I've got a dedicated monitor above my main monitor, and for these one-to-one conversations, like that's the only thing up there in my eye span.
Yeah.
It's you and me, and I wish I could black out me, but then the video would be quite.
Well, I think the focus feature on that Apple has created where you can make sure that nothing's like dinging on your phone or your computer is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Because I turn that on before every meeting. Otherwise, I was seeing emails coming in and text messages, and it's distracting.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you in the Apple Club like me?
I am.
Yeah.
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 I wasn't always, but yes, I am.
I worked at their big competitor in the 90s. So I was like a certified Windows expert. And then when I left that, I was like, can I have my Mac back, please? Because I like it better.
I, I held on to my BlackBerry as long as I could.
Don't you
And
miss
then
that little keyboard? Dang it.
I did for maybe 10 minutes when I switched to the iPhone. And then someone asked me one day, "Oh, could you send an email for me? Here's my BlackBerry." And I was like, "How do you use this again?"
Hmm.
Uh,
Mm.
so
Yeah, I don't
I think
know.
for a very short period of time.
I still miss the actual haptic, touch press keys, and I still don't type super well on an iPhone because yeah, the soft keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, that ship has sailed. This is what those devices are going to look like and act like
Exactly.
for a long time. We're not going to change that. And we all still have email on our smartphones. And I think that'll be the case for a long time. Where do you see, as we wrap up, because I got to take a whole hour of your time here, where do you see taking your company over the next couple of years? What would you like to do with it?
Oh, that's a good question. I kind of rethink this all the time. I definitely want to continue on the path I'm on to, continue to work with small businesses, but I don't want that to change. Um, I think I would like to continue to expand, knowing that I don't need to work with businesses that are just down the street, that I can work with small businesses pretty much anywhere. I definitely want to continue that. Um, and I want to continue to educate small businesses on email marketing, whether or not they hire me to help them or not. I really want to do more of that to make sure that they're at least aware of what this marketing channel can do for their business. I think that's really important.
If there's not a terrific kick butt book on email marketing program for your small business, would you consider writing it?
Oh, I had not thought about that, but possibly, yes.
Because
I
seriously,
I
like
I need to think about that one.
it's a big gap in the world. I can't think of such a book. There's some wonderful books on
Yeah.
email marketing, but they tend to be aimed like Kath Pay's book is terrific, holistic email marketing. There you go, Kath,
Yeah.
call out. But it's aimed at a much bigger scale than I think you're helping your clients aim at.
Yeah, I need to see if there is anything. I'm not sure that there is
I'm not sure
on
there
the
is. I'm not
small.
sure there is either.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of businesses. If you could sort of, it's not an easy job to do, but like, look, here's the cookbooks. Kind of what you're saying about starting a business. Like, here's the cookbook, the blueprint, if you will, the things that you really should have in place. And it's not platform specific, and it's not, it's vendor agnostic and all that other stuff. But if you're not doing this, do this, and it needs to connect to this and to do that. Because wow, there's a lot of people who'd benefit from that.
Yeah. I'm going to think about that. I have a client who writes a children's yoga book,
Mhm.
and maybe I'll ask her I'm not sure exactly how she got started in writing these books, but she enjoys it.
Yeah.
She was working in yoga before all of this. So,
Yeah.
and now she kind of writes and leads classes. So I have to
Hmm.
think about that.
Yeah, I do think of it. I think that'd be a
Yeah.
service to the world. Not necessarily a bad asset for MochaBear either.
Yeah. No, I need to find the time.
Yeah, well, writing a book and finding the time. I've had a couple of folks on this podcast. Although I haven't had Kath Pay, who I mentioned as a guest yet, but Jenna Tiffany was on 9 months ago, and she had just completed writing a book, and there was some other guest who'd also just completed writing a book. It's interesting to talk to a busy professional or business owner. Say, how in the heck did you carve out the time to do that?
Yeah, I'd be curious how they found the time. I feel like
Are
there's
they
not a lot of hours in the day.
Yeah, how they made the time, honestly, but yeah, and, mea culpa, a bunch of books kicking around my head. It's like, yeah, I'm not
I guess if I could hire some people to take the day-to-day stuff off my plate that we had originally discussed,
yeah.
then I could find time to write the book.
Yeah, there you go, there you go. Well, if you do, you have to come back on as a repeat guest so we can talk about the book. How's that for a deal?
Okay, that's the deal.
Cool. Well, let's wrap. Thank you so much for the time and the great conversation, Elizabeth.
Thank you for having me. This was great. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, my guest today has been Elizabeth Jacobi, founder, runner, chief cook, bottle washer, and strategist at MochaBear Marketing. Thanks. We're out.
Thank you.